Long shifts feel like borrowed time, time you don't own, time your body owes to someone else. That night, I'd just finished 18 hours straight on my feet at St. Boniface Hospital. My name's Jesse Carter. I'm 32, a nursing assistant, and I make just enough money to stay afloat as long as nothing goes wrong. But everything went wrong that week. My paycheck was delayed, again. I'd been checking the app every 20 minutes between changing bedpans and pushing meal carts like my bank balance was gonna suddenly sprout money. It didn't. Still, 87 cents. I had a 2010 Dodge Caliber parked in the staff lot, and that hunk of junk had more leaks than a hospital secret. It was 28 degrees with wind chill, and every breath felt like chewing glass. The gas light had been on since halfway through my shift, and the tank was bone dry by the time I reached the 7-Eleven on Pembina Highway, the only place open this late. The lights buzzed overhead like angry bugs, and everything had that washed-out neon look, like the world itself was tired. I scraped together the last of my coins, enough for maybe 3 liters, just enough to get me back to my basement suite off Stafford. As I pulled into the lot, I saw a man standing at the next pump. Hunched, thin, torn bomber jacket clinging to his frame like dead skin. He was messing with something in his hands. Looked like a lighter. Our eyes met. His were pale, bloodshot. Something about them made my stomach twist. "Hey," he said. "You got a smoke?" I shook my head. "No, sorry." He took a step closer. "Come on, nurses always got smokes." I froze. How did he know I was a nurse? "Fucking liar," he screamed. The words sliced through the silence. Then came the bang. His fist slamming into the side of the gas pump so hard it triggered the safety alarm. I flinched and instinctively turned to shield myself as he grabbed a jagged chunk of sidewalk ice and hurled it. It smacked into the side of my car, cracking the passenger side window. I didn't think, I just ran. Fumbled with my keys, barely got the door open. My hands were so cold I couldn't feel the handle. The engine stuttered, once, twice, before finally groaning to life. In the mirror, I saw him coming, sprinting, now wielding a tire iron like he'd conjured it from the cold. I peeled out of the lot, tires skidding on packed snow. As I passed the drive-through window, I screamed, "Call the cops!" The clerk's eyes barely moved, just blinked at me like she'd seen this before. Maybe she had. I drove blindly, heart pounding in my ears. Each red light felt like a trap, each pedestrian a threat. When I finally pulled into the cracked pavement behind my apartment, I barely remembered the drive. My hands trembled as I cut the engine. I kept the knife block from my kitchen in the car that night, grabbed one, the biggest one. Inside, my suite smelled like mildew and dust. I pushed a chair against the door, turned all the lights on, and sat on the floor with the knife across my lap. The 911 dispatcher stayed with me on the phone the whole time. Her voice was calm. Mine shook like it belonged to someone else. That night I didn't sleep, I just listened. For footsteps, for metal scraping concrete, for another bang. I went back the next morning. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see that it was real. Maybe I needed it not to be. The sun hadn't warmed a thing. Still bitter, dry air. The kind that burned your lungs and made the world feel brittle. The 7-Eleven looked different in daylight. The same clerk was there. Tired-looking girl, septum ring, hoodie with a bleach stain on the sleeve. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. "You made it out," she said, like it was casual, like I'd survived a job interview. "Who was he?" I asked, grabbing an energy drink I didn't want. "Derek," she replied, popping her gum. "He comes around every full moon when his meth check drops." "Is he always like that?" "Last month he bit a cop. Couple months back he threatened to blow the place up because we ran out of Red Bull." I stared at the pump 3, where it happened. A new sticker had been slapped over the dented side. "Out of order." Just like that. No news story, no caution, tape, no corporate statement, just a sticker. I paid in silence. My hands were still trembling just enough to notice. As I turned to leave, the clerk said, You should get that window fixed. I paused. I can't afford to. Rent's due. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Corporate says not to engage. Safer that way. For us. I left feeling like I'd stepped out of a dream where no one wakes up screaming, just shivering, cold to the bone. 2 nights later, I was back on shift. Graveyard again. Because of course I was. The hospital. Lights felt too bright. The air smelled like bleach and overcooked green beans. I tried to pretend everything was fine, like I was fine. But I wasn't. Every shadow outside the parking lot made my skin crawl. Every reflection in a glass door looked like him. That bomber jacket. That look in his eyes. I dropped a tray of medication in the hallway. My hands just gave out. My supervisor asked if I was sick. I said I was tired. He didn't push it. During break, I went to the staff lounge, microwaved ramen, and stared out the window at my car. I'd taped a garbage bag over the cracked window. Wind whistled through it like someone whispering. That night, I started keeping my knife in my work bag, just in case. Sleep became a stranger. I kept waking up in the dark thinking I heard someone at the door. I kept checking locks that were already locked. I told a coworker about it. She nodded solemnly and said, "You should carry pepper spray, but you know, that's illegal here." We laughed, sort of. The next day, HR sent out an email about self-care and mindfulness tips. I deleted it without opening it. What do you do when trauma feels like routine? When terror doesn't come with sirens or headlines? You go to work. You fake a smile. You walk to your car with your keys in hand like a weapon, and you never stop checking behind you. Weeks passed. The snow turned to slush, then back to ice. Winnipeg's like that, relentless. I got the window fixed eventually. After skipping a few meals. Still haven't replaced my winter boots, but the window doesn't rattle anymore. I saw Derek again. Not in person, just a blurry photo on a community Facebook group. Someone posted a grainy shot of him yelling outside another gas station. The comments said he'd gotten arrested. Again. Released. Again. I didn't feel relieved, just tired. The police never followed up on my report. I wasn't surprised. No one pressed charges, no one had the energy. Trauma like this doesn't come with a climax, it's not a movie. There's no dramatic court case, no sudden healing. You just keep going. Because you have to. I still stop for gas at night. I still flinch when someone walks too close to me at the pump. I don't make eye contact anymore. I don't talk unless I have to. One night I drove past that same 7-Eleven. A new out-of-order sticker was on pump 6 now. Funny thing. The stickers, always clean, always straight. Like they've gotten real good at applying them. I guess that's what you do when things break and you can't fix them. You cover it up, you pretend it's just another night, and you keep driving. I used to think bad things didn't happen in West End. We were the kind of neighborhood with fairy lights strung over backyard patios and kids tearing through sprinklers barefoot. That February, I was 11. Everything felt simple. Cricket in the cul-de-sac, superhero comics tucked under my pillow, and summer holidays that seemed to last forever. That afternoon, the sun was brutal. Hot enough to make the pavement shimmer. I was skipping beside my sister Mia, toward the 7-Eleven on Boundary Street for free Slurpee Day. I was giddy. Not just about the sugar, but about the ritual. Me, her, walking there together, even if she grumbled about it. "Stop skipping, dork," she muttered, thumbing through her brick-like Nokia. "It's just frozen sugar water." But to me, it was free blue raspberry glory, a gift from the gods of convenience stores. When we stepped inside, the AC hit like a blast from Antarctica. Everything was humming. The drink machines, the fridge doors, the lazy drone of ceiling fans. Then we saw her, a woman near the magazine rack. Tall, dressed like a beach mum with oversized sunglasses and a floppy straw sun hat. She had a tiny, trembling chihuahua tucked in her elbow. "Oh, you look responsible," she said sweetly, zeroing in on me. Could you hold Mr. Bubbles for just a moment? I need to dash to the loo. Won't be long. I looked at Mia. She shrugged. Go ahead, dog boy. I took the Chihuahua. He was warm and shaking like he was plugged into a socket. She disappeared into the back hallway. That's when everything shifted. It started subtle. A guy walked in, high-vis work shirt, dusty boots like every other tradie in Brisbane. He didn't grab a drink or look at the shelves. He scanned the store until his eyes landed on me. He smiled, too wide. Hey mate, your mom sent me to get you. Car broke down, said to come quick. Something inside me froze. My mom was at work. She was a nurse, she wouldn't just send a stranger. I didn't answer. I looked at Mia. Her head snapped up from her phone. What the hell? She said, stepping closer to me. That's when the woman reappeared, but the friendliness was gone like she'd peeled off a mask. Give him the dog and come with us now, she said sharply, reaching for my wrist. My brain lagged. I just stood there clutching the Chihuahua like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. No, Mia said. One word. Cold. Sharp. The guy stepped forward. Come on, kid, it's hot out, don't make this harder. His voice wasn't friendly anymore. I think part of me knew what was happening. But when you're 11, your brain can't quite accept that someone wants to take you, not for fun, not for help, but for something dark you don't even have words for. Mia didn't hesitate. She moved fast like a switch flipped inside her. Get off my brother, she shouted, stepping between me and the woman. Then she slammed her whole body into the woman, shoulder first. It felt like everything exploded at once. The woman crashed backward into a display of Tim Tams, sending chocolate biscuits flying in every direction. A few clipped the drink fridges, bursting open on impact. Mia yelled at the top of her lungs, "Stranger danger!" Her voice bounced off the aisles like a fire alarm. I still held the Chihuahua. Mr. Bubbles trembled harder, or maybe it was me. The man lunged, but Mia shoved me back toward the counter. The girl at the register just froze, mouth open, eyes wide like she was trying to process whether this was a prank. Then someone else burst through the doors. A big guy, shirtless under a high-vis vest, grease on his hands, spanner still clutched, like a club. You right, kids? He shouted. The man cursed under his breath and turned to run. The woman scrambled to her feet and bolted after him. Neither looked back. The big guy chased them to the car park but came back shaking his head. Gone. Bastards were in a Commodore, no plates. Police showed up 10 minutes later. By then, I was sitting on the floor, holding the dog and staring at a crushed packet of Tim Tams. Mia sat next to me, silent now, one hand still on my shoulder. I didn't cry. I think I was too confused to. The officers were kind but clinical, asked questions, took statements, checked the CCTV, blurry but good enough. Turns out the couple had done this before, never caught. Until now. The next day, Mom kept me home from swimming and school and anything outside. She didn't say much, just made me Milo and rubbed my back every time I stopped moving. I didn't want to talk anyway. I kept replaying it in my head. The woman's grip, that fake smile, the spanner guy's voice. Mia got grounded for a month. Mom was furious that she hadn't noticed sooner, hadn't called her, hadn't said no to going out. She saved me, I said. She screamed, she knocked that lady flat. Mom didn't argue, but she didn't back down either. I think she was scared. Maybe Mia was too. As for the dog, no one claimed him. The cops said the woman likely picked him up on the street or used him before. Just another prop. I named him Lucky. He followed me everywhere after that. Slept curled up on my toes. Barked at anyone in a hat. I never looked at strangers the same again. I still don't. Mom eventually apologized to Mia. Quietly, one night. They didn't say it out loud, but I think they both understood something shifted that day. Innocence doesn't leave all at once. It gets peeled away, one moment at a time. And that was one of mine. Free Slurpee Day never felt the same after. Years later, when I walk by that 7-Eleven, it still looks the same. Posters taped to the glass, cheap snacks by the register, aircon cranked to Antarctic. But I see it differently now. The man wore a high-vis shirt, nothing more common than that in Brisbane. The woman had a dog, sunglasses, charm. That's the scariest part. Nothing about them screamed danger. Nothing about me said target. But it happened anyway. Sometimes people ask if it changed me. Of course it did. I double-check locks. I never hold strangers' pets. I don't get nostalgic over Free Slurpee Day. But I'm also alive. Because of Mia. Because of a random tradie with a spanner. Because that day when everything went wrong, someone did the right thing. Lucky lived another 10 years. Grew fat, then blind, then quiet. He died curled up next to my bed, still trembling sometimes in his sleep. I got a tattoo when I turned 18, just a little silhouette of him behind my ankle. People think it's a joke. I don't explain it. Some stories don't need retelling. But I carry them, all of them. Because sometimes survival looks like a kid with a Slurpee and a dog he never wanted to let go. And sometimes it's just about getting out, fast enough, loud enough, lucky enough. It all started the week my life came off the rails. I was 24, working the graveyard shift at a 7-Eleven on the edge of Red Deer, Alberta. It wasn't where I thought I'd end up. Not when I dropped out of college 2 years earlier with half a psych degree and a full load of debt. I'd promised myself I'd take a year off, get my shit together, and go back stronger, but that never happened. Now I was here, stuck under buzzing fluorescent lights, manning a counter nobody wanted to be behind. The store sat by itself on a cracked stretch of road, not far from a cluster of warehouses that emptied out by 6 every night. After that, it was just wind, snow, and the sound of flickering street lamps. That night, November 28, 2023, the first snow of the season had just begun to stick. It wasn't heavy, just enough to dust the asphalt and whisper that winter had officially moved in. I was halfway through restocking the energy drink fridge when my phone buzzed. Mia, my younger sister, had sent another text. "Still good? You okay?" She was the only one who still checked in. Our parents were gone, our childhood home sold, and everyone else had faded out of my life like static on a dead TV channel. "I'm fine. Just tired," I typed back, even though I hadn't slept right in days. The bell above the door jingled. I didn't look up right away. Probably another shift worker needing a Red Bull or smokes, but then I felt it. That cold air. That pause. Something changed. I turned. He was tall. 6'3", maybe 6'4". Dressed in a thick black coat buttoned to the neck and a trapper hat pulled down low. His beard looked scraggly and frozen at the ends. Snow clung to his boots. But it was the way he stood there, too still, too quiet, that made my skin pull tight. "Just a coffee," he said, sliding a crumpled 5 across the counter. His voice was soft, almost polite, but when his hand brushed mine, I flinched. His fingers were ice. I nodded, filled the cup, gave him his change. He didn't move right away, just stared at me with pale blue eyes that didn't blink enough. "Quiet night?" he asked. "Yeah," I muttered. He smiled. Not warm, just wrong. Then he left. I watched him go, expecting him to vanish into the dark like most night walkers do. But he didn't. For a second, he stood outside, sipping his coffee and watching the store through the window. Watching me. After he left, I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was just cold. Maybe he was one of those guys who lives off the grid in a shack and only comes into town when he runs out of instant coffee and beef jerky. Alberta's full of those types. Still, I kept glancing at the windows every couple of minutes. Just in case. The hours dragged. I cleaned the slush off the entry mat, rotated the expired sandwiches, pretended I wasn't freezing in that polyester uniform. My Civic's heater hadn't worked in months and I hadn't been able to afford gloves yet. Even inside, I could feel the cold in my fingers. Around 2:10 a.m., the bell jingled again. It was him. Same coat, same hat, same blank look. Only how? This time he didn't walk to the coffee machine, didn't browse, Just stood by the counter, hands deep in his pockets. "You work here alone?" he asked. His voice was calm, but something in it had an edge, like a question that wasn't really a question. I didn't blink. "Manager's in the back," I said. Lie. Raj wouldn't show up until 6. He nodded slowly. Then his eyes drifted toward the back hallway, toward the break room, the office, the locked stock room. "Be careful out here," he said after a pause. "A lot of strange people at night." I couldn't tell if that was a warning or a threat. He walked out again, but this time he didn't leave. Through the fogged-up glass, I saw him standing by the edge of the parking lot, hands in his pockets, staring at the store. I froze. Should I call someone? "The cops, Raj?" I texted Mia instead. Guy came in again. "Creepy as hell," she answered in seconds. "What?" "Call someone. You okay?" I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. He wasn't doing anything illegal, just standing there. Eventually, I stopped looking, focused on tasks, tried to pretend I wasn't scared, but I didn't stop watching the clock. Only 3 more hours. At 3:01 a.m., I clocked out. The store was dead silent, the snow coming down heavier now, soft flurries under a yellow street lamp. My Civic shivered, to life on the 3rd try, headlights casting long shadows across the lot. I drove off, trying not to look in the rearview mirror. I'd made it 2 blocks before the lights appeared behind me. High beams, bright, too close. Black pickup truck, old model. No plates I could see. It didn't pass me, it didn't back off, it just rode my bumper. I sped up. So did it. I took a left onto a quieter road near the warehouses. No change. I cut across another street, then another. I was sliding through. Intersections now, tires skidding a little every time I touched the brakes. Still there. The fear hit full force. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. I yanked the wheel and cut into a narrow side street behind an old gas station. Pulled into the alley, heart hammering, and parked behind a dumpster. I killed the engine and ducked low, breathing hard, watching my breath fog the windshield. My phone lit up. Mia again. "You okay?" I called her, voice low, shaking. "Someone's following me." She was dead serious. "Drive to the police station. Now. Don't go home." I stayed hidden for 10 minutes, maybe 15, then eased out and took the longest possible route to the precinct on Guides Avenue. I didn't see the truck again, but I felt it, like eyes on my neck. The cops were decent. Took a report. Asked questions. Gave me a business card with a name and case number. They didn't find the truck, they didn't seem surprised either. "This time of year, a lot of guys get weird," one officer said. "Winter hits, people snap, you probably just spooked him." Probably. I started working day shifts. Raj didn't argue when I asked. Said I looked pale. I stopped sleeping. Started checking my locks twice. Bought a pocket knife from a hardware store. I'd never held a weapon before in my life, but I kept it under my pillow now. Every time a car slowed near my place, my chest tightened. Was it him? Was he still out there? I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe it was just a bad night. But that fear doesn't just go away. Then one morning I opened my apartment door on the way to work and saw it. A coffee cup. From 7-Eleven. No note. No lid. Half full. Cold to the touch. I stood there, just staring at it for a long time. It's been 5 months. I've moved to a new building, started night school again, switched to a job at a car wash downtown. Daylight hours only. But I still wake up sometimes with the covers twisted around my legs, heart racing, breath caught in my chest. Still keep the knife in my nightstand. Still, glance out my blinds more often than I'd like to admit. Mia keeps asking me to come stay with her in Calgary. Says I need a reset. Maybe she's right. But part of me feels like if I leave, he wins. Like I let the fear chase me off. I haven't seen him again, not really. But some nights when the wind howls and I'm walking home late and a shadow moves just wrong in the dark, I feel it. That same cold, that stillness, that silence before something steps into your world and doesn't belong there. I don't know what he wanted. I don't think it was money. Maybe it was power, maybe it was just the game, or maybe he was just waiting for someone to be alone, tired, worn down. Someone like me. I don't tell people the whole story anymore. It sounds too strange when you say it out loud. But sometimes I'll see a kid working, late behind a glass counter under buzzing lights, and I want to say something. Just one word. Careful. Because not all monsters break the door down. Some just buy a coffee and wait. It started like most of my jobs lately. Last minute, half-baked, and barely worth the fuel. I was 28, broke, and about 3 weeks behind on rent. My bank account was gasping for air, my camera gear was outdated, and the only emails I was getting were spam or overdue notices. So when a contact of a contact from a mining outfit offered a gig photographing a new drill site near Coober Pedy, I jumped. Good money, they said. 2 days of work. Quick and dirty. No one else wanted to make the trip right before Christmas. Said yes before they could change their mind. The plan was simple. Drive from Adelaide through Port Augusta, cross the air highway, and hit the site by midday the next day. I figured I'd stop somewhere along the way, catch a few hours of sleep, in the car and keep moving. But that was before the heat made sleep impossible. Before my Commodore's AC gave up halfway out of town. Before the cicadas started screaming from every bush and tree like they were warning me to turn back. By midnight, I was wiped. Every muscle in my body buzzed from caffeine and vibration. The road shimmered in the heat, even in the dark. I was gripping the wheel too hard, blinking too slow, missing signs. One wrong move and I'd veer off into nothing. That's when I saw it. Fluorescent lights in the middle of nowhere. A 7-Eleven. It looked like a hallucination. Just a glowing box of civilization dropped in the Outback, surrounded by red dust and scrub. The kind of place that shouldn't exist, but does. I pulled in fast. Gravel snapped under the tires. I cracked my window, and a wall of heat and buzzing insects rushed in. And that's when I saw him. A man. Standing still near the edge of the light. His coat was long, too heavy for the night, and covered in dust. A wide-brimmed hat cast his face in shadow. He wasn't leaning on anything, wasn't moving, just watching. I sat in the car a few seconds longer than I should have, engine ticking. Something about him made my chest go tight. I told myself he was just some traveler, same as me, just stretching his legs, but he didn't stretch. Didn't smoke, didn't check his phone, he just stood there. I got out, locked the car behind me, and headed to the pump. The man didn't turn his head, but I felt his eyes. On me. Inside, the store was overlit and underwhelming. The air conditioning rattled louder than it cooled, and it smelled faintly of scorched sausage rolls and burned coffee. The cashier, Jenny, according to her name tag, sat behind the counter, scrolling through her phone. She looked up just long enough to make sure I wasn't holding a gun, then went back to tapping at her screen. I grabbed an energy drink and a gas station sandwich I probably wouldn't eat. I hesitated near the coffee machine, then decided against it. My stomach was already in knots from the drive. At the counter, I tried for casual. Quiet night? Jenny didn't look up. Always is. I glanced toward the window. The man was still there. Now he was a little closer, still outside the reach of the light, but angled toward the store, facing it, facing me. Jenny noticed where I was looking. You know him? No, do you? She shrugged. He's been out there a while, maybe an hour, not doing anything, just standing there. Something about the way she said it, the indifference, the assumption that this kind of thing happened often, made it worse. I paid, forced a nod, and walked out, plastic bag in hand. The man didn't move, didn't even twitch. As I passed, I avoided eye contact. My skin prickled with that ancient animal sense that you're not just being watched, you're being studied. I got in the car, locked the doors again. My phone buzzed. Marcus, you good? Getting close to Coober yet? Stopped for fuel. Tired. I looked back up. The man had shifted, just slightly. His head tilted, like he knew I was watching now too. I started the engine. The headlights lit him up, and still, he didn't flinch. The coat moved slightly in the wind, but nothing else did. I pulled out onto the highway, tires crunching gravel, heart beating fast for no good reason. But I didn't feel relief. Not yet. The highway swallowed me up again, dark and endless. Even with the radio on, even with the windows cracked, the silence crept in. Out here, noise didn't help. You couldn't drown out what was in your head. Every tree, every kangaroo sign blurred past. I drove faster than I should have. I kept checking the mirrors. Nothing behind me. But I still felt it. That knot in my gut. That pressure behind the eyes, like I'd just made a mistake I didn't understand yet. At some point, I realized I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. Just me, alone in the dark, barreling toward a town I wasn't sure even existed. Then I saw them. Headlights, far behind me. Small at first, then larger, closing fast. Too fast. It was a truck. Old model. Boxy, maybe a Land Cruiser or a Hilux, hard to tell. The lights were high and bright and way too close for comfort. I slowed a bit, hoping they'd pass. They didn't. I sped up. So did they. The rearview mirror was a blur of light. My palms started to sweat. I flipped my phone open on the passenger seat. No service. I took the next turn I saw, a dirt road leading off toward a clump of low trees. My tires skidded slightly on the loose gravel, and the truck behind me hesitated. Then it disappeared. I killed the lights, waited, listened. Nothing. No engine, no headlights. I stayed that way for 10, maybe 15 minutes trying to breathe through it. When I finally pulled back onto the highway, it was like nothing had happened, but I knew better. Something wasn't right. I didn't stop again until dawn. The sun came up like it was trying to burn the sky clean. The red earth glowed. The cicadas started again, louder than before. I pulled into a rest stop just outside Cooper Pedy. My eyes were bloodshot, my legs numb. I checked my phone. 2 bars of signal. 3 new texts from Marcus. Let me know when you get there. Saw something weird on the news. You sure you're okay? Call me, bro. Seriously. I ignored them. Opened my banking app instead. $27. The job money hadn't hit yet. Or maybe it never would. I opened my email. 1 new message. From editor@skyframe.media. Mail to editor@skyframe.media. Subject: update on Cooper job body. Job canceled. Sorry for the short notice. Nothing we can do. Hope you haven't left yet. I stared at the screen for a long time. Let the heat wrap around me like a blanket I couldn't escape. Outside the rest stop bathroom on the edge of the parking lot, something caught my eye. A long coat, brown, dusty, just for a second. But there was no one there. I never saw him again. Not really. But something stayed with me after that night. That stretch of road felt like it peeled something back. Like the land out there held things the rest of the world had forgotten. I don't talk about it. Not much. Not to Marcus. Not to anyone. Because there's no proof. Just a memory. A few strange hours in the middle of nowhere. But sometimes, late. At night when I'm editing photos and the apartment's too quiet, I remember that face I never saw. That stillness, that coat. And I wonder, what was he waiting for? What did he want? Maybe nothing. Maybe it was all in my head. The heat, the debt, the pressure. Maybe it cracked something. Or maybe there are people out there who don't need reasons. Who just watch. Wait. See who looks back. Every now and then, I'll drive past a service station and I'll see someone standing at the edge of the lights. Still. Silent. Watching. And I lock my doors. Every time. I never thought a simple walk to the store would feel like walking through a war zone, but that night it did. My name's Thando Ndlovu. I'm a single parent living in a quiet suburb of Johannesburg called Randburg. It's supposed to be safe. or at least safer than the rest of the city. But when you lose your job, the cracks start showing everywhere. I was laid off 3 months ago from a local tech startup that just couldn't keep its doors open. The job was decent pay, but now I'm scrambling to find anything that'll pay the rent and keep the lights on. Every day I send out resumes, make phone calls, pray for a break that never comes. The kids don't understand why things are tight. Lerato, my 8-year-old, is bright and always asking questions. She's got this grip on my hand like if she lets go, everything might fall apart. Kagiso, my 5-year-old boy, is pure energy, always hopping, running, smiling. He makes the days bearable. That week I promised them a treat if they behaved. It was a small thing, but ice cream felt like a luxury. Money was tight, but their smiles are worth more than any paycheck. It was just past 9 p.m. when we stepped out onto our street. The jacaranda trees loomed above, their purple blossoms barely visible under the yellow street lamps, flickering and dim. The air was thick and sticky, the heat of the day still clinging to the pavement, mixing with the smell of rain that had fallen earlier. Cicadas hummed somewhere in the distance, a steady, eerie chorus. I told the kids to stay close. Lerato gripped my hand like it was a lifeline. Kagiso bounded ahead, giggling and chasing shadows. It should have been a simple walk. Just a quick trip to the 24-hour 7-Eleven at the corner, grab ice cream, head home, and tuck the kids into bed. But I had this prickling feeling in the back of my neck, the kind you get when something's wrong but you don't know what. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. 2 people stepped onto the sidewalk from the shadows beneath the jacarandas, a man and a woman. They didn't belong here. The man was dressed in a crisp white linen shirt, his sleeves rolled up like he was ready for a fancy dinner somewhere. The woman wore a floral sundress, perfectly pressed and out of place. Their smiles were too wide, too forced, like actors, playing parts they didn't understand. I tightened my grip on Lerato's hand and called Kagiso back. I knew then this walk wouldn't be simple. The man's smile was the first thing that caught me off guard. He asked for spare change, his voice smooth but carrying an edge I didn't like. I froze, caught between the urge to walk past and the instinct to protect my kids. The woman crouched down, her eyes locking onto Kagiso. "Such a sweet boy," she cooed, reaching toward him slowly. I yanked Kagiso back before she could get close. "No, we're leaving." The man's smile vanished in a heartbeat. His face hardened like a switch flipped inside him. "Wallet. Now." That's when I saw the glint. Steel, quick and cruel in his hand. Panic crashed over me like a wave. My heart hammered, adrenaline flooding every nerve. I shoved the woman back as she lunged for Kagiso. "Run!" I shouted, barely thinking. Kagiso took off like a bolt, Lerato clutching my hand tighter as we scrambled away. A sharp, burning pain exploded in my side. The knife. I tasted blood, but I didn't stop. In a wild, desperate moment, I swung back at the woman. She stumbled, surprised by the resistance. Then I heard voices. 2 joggers appeared around the corner, their faces confused but alert. The couple melted into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they came. I collapsed onto the sidewalk, bleeding, trying to steady my breath. The police arrived fast, too fast and yet not fast enough. Constable Mbeki was the one who showed up, his eyes scanning me with a skeptical gaze as he examined the knife wound on my side. "You sure you didn't start this?" he asked flatly, like I was the suspect, instead of the victim. I wanted to scream, explain, but the pain and exhaustion weighed me down. I just shook my head. The woman had already called the cops, spinning a story that I attacked them out of nowhere. Classic. The joggers' statements helped, their voices steady as they described what they'd seen. Security footage from the 7-Eleven confirmed parts of the story. Still, the system felt slow, like justice was dragging its feet. Hours passed while officers talked, scribbled notes, and made phone calls. Finally, by dawn, it came out. The couple wasn't new to this. Robberies, assaults, even attempted kidnappings in the area, and somehow they'd always escaped. I was discharged from the hospital with stitches, a prescription for panic attacks, and a folder of paperwork. The physical wound hurt, but the real damage was invisible. Lorado started sleeping with the lights on, her small hands clutching a stuffed animal close to her chest. Kagiso kept asking me the same question, eyes wide and confused. Why did that lady want to take me? I had no good answer. The 7-Eleven clerk told me he kept a baseball bat under the counter now just in case. And me? I bought pepper spray the next day. I don't walk at night anymore. Not alone, not with the kids, not at all. Sometimes when the house is quiet and the kids are finally asleep, I sit and think about that night. The couple, who they were, what they wanted. I stare at the ceiling, wondering if they're still out there, waiting, watching, choosing their next target. I replay every step of that night. The smell of rain on hot pavement, the hum of cicadas, the crack of the knife. I try to convince myself it's over, but the fear lingers. I wonder what kind of monsters walk these streets when no one's looking, and I hold my children closer, silently promising they'll never walk alone again. I don't know how I ended up here again, standing behind the counter of this grim little 7-Eleven on the outskirts of Cork. The night is late, almost midnight, and I'm dead tired. Not just tired, but the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of energy drinks can fix. The kind that sinks into your skin and makes every breath feel heavy. I'm Finn O'Sullivan, 26 years old, an art school dropout with a portfolio gathering dust and a mountain of student debt suffocating me. I used to dream in color, painting, sketching, creating worlds out of nothing but pencil and paper. Now my only art is the little doodles I scribble on receipt paper during slow shifts, trying to keep the boredom from swallowing me whole. This 7-Eleven is a world of humming refrigerators and flickering fluorescent lights. Outside, the rain has slicked the pavement, the smell of wet concrete mixing with stale coffee and cigarette smoke from the boarded-up pub next door. The laundromat buzzes quietly down the street, a rare, comforting hum in this lonely stretch. Clock in every night, stare blankly at the register, and wait for the hours to pass. Liam, the security guard, is usually somewhere half asleep or stoned behind the cameras. He's the only reason I'm not totally alone here. Tonight, I feel it creeping. The dull throb behind my eyes, the headache I'm used to pushing aside. I pour another cup of black coffee, rub my temples, and try to shake the weight pressing down on me. This isn't how I imagined my life at 26. I thought art school would be my gateway to something better. Instead, I'm stuck in a job I hate, living paycheck to paycheck, dreaming about things I barely remember. It started like any other night. Customers drifting in and out, Liam nodding off in his chair, me doodling the outline of a face on a receipt. But the headache shifted, tightening like a vice around my skull. I tried to ignore it, took a swig of energy drink, wiped my brow. Then suddenly the world spun. The fluorescent lights blurred and stretched, the floor tilted beneath. I barely had time to register before everything went black. Next thing I knew, I was flat on the wet floor, cold and disoriented. Liam's panicked voice floated above me, distant and urgent. "Mate, you're seizing. Hold on. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy, useless. My chest heaved, heart pounding like it was trying to escape. I couldn't think straight, the edges of my vision flickering in and out. Then came the ambulance sirens, rushing in like a lifeline. Somewhere between the seizure and the ambulance, I lost hours. I was no longer the guy behind the counter, but a patient caught in the middle of something way bigger. I woke up to harsh white lights and the firm squeeze of Aisling's hand. She looked exhausted, scrubs wrinkled, hair pulled back, but a granola bar still clutched in one hand. Her eyes were wet, but she tried to mask it with a tight smile. "You scared the shite out of me," she whispered, voice breaking. Dr. Byrne entered then, sharp, no nonsense. She carried a clipboard and a face that said, "Business. You're lucky," she said bluntly. The scan showed a bleed. We were prepping for surgery when I noticed it wasn't just a clot, it was an aneurysm. My stomach dropped. "If you drilled?" I croaked. Dr. Byrne's eyebrow raised. "You'd be dead." I swallowed hard. The truth hit me like a punch. One wrong move, 1 millimeter off, and I wouldn't be here. No more sketches, no more late-night shifts, no more dumb doodles on receipts. I stared at the ceiling for days, the white paint blurring into the fear inside me. Aisling brought me tea, the kind that actually tasted like something, the small comfort I needed. But I couldn't shake the thought of how close I came to losing everything. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of my manager and handed in my notice. He barely looked up, just shrugged. "You'll be back," he said like it was a joke, but I wasn't. That night I dug out the old portfolio, forgotten sketches, unfinished comics, pages filled with the dreams I'd shoved aside. I posted my first comic online, tagging a small indie publisher on a whim. I figured, why not? What did I have to lose? For the first time in years, I felt the spark again, the tiny flame of hope and purpose. I still got headaches, sure, but now they came with something else, determination. 6 months later, life isn't perfect. I still have bad days, still worry about the future, but I'm creating again. Aisling laughs as she frames my first rejection letter, calling it my badge of honor. Liam bought a copy of my zine, probably just to be nice. And Dr. Byrne, she got a special dedication page in my debut comic, The Woman Who Saved My Brain. Sitting at my drafting table, rain tapping softly against the window, I realize how close I came to never drawing again. Almost dying in a 7-Eleven was a wake-up call I didn't know I needed. Now, I'm alive. And for the first time in a long time, I'm ready to live. It's 3:12 a.m. on a mid-January night in Toronto. Outside, the wind howls like it's trying to scrape the city clean. The temperature stubbornly stuck at minus 22 degrees Celsius, wind chill making it feel even colder. I'm Maya Patel, 19 years, old nursing student and the reluctant night shift clerk at this 24-hour 7-Eleven. 11 months in, just 4 weeks shy of switching to day shift, and I swear I'm counting down every second. This place is sandwiched between a dry cleaner that's been closed forever, at least since last November, and a payday loan shop that smells faintly of desperation and stale coffee. The flickering yellow light of the 7-Eleven sign throws ghostly shadows over snowbanks piled up like forgotten mountains. It's a bleak setting, but it's my reality, and for now it pays for my tuition. Nights are slow except for the occasional late driver or lost soul who stumbles in. Most customers are the same faces, repeated like a broken record. But there's one that stuck with me, the 3 a.m. regular. Every Thursday, sharp at 3:15 a.m., the door chimes and in walks a man. 30-something, always in the same beaten-up Canada Goose jacket with a broken zipper. Never changes the order. 1 sugar-free Red Bull, 2 Lotto 649 scratch-off tickets, and 1 pack of juicy fruit gum, which he never opens. I've watched him for 2 months now, an odd fixture in my otherwise monotonous nights. He's quiet, keeps to himself, and never talks much. I'm not sure what draws me to him, but there's something about the way he moves, the slight slump in his shoulders, that tells me this isn't a guy living an easy life. He's tired. We're both tired. Tonight, I'm just finishing wiping, down the counter when the door chimes again. I glance up instinctively. There he is, like clockwork. But something's off right away. First, he's not wearing his usual work boots. Instead, he's in socks with sandals. Socks and sandals at minus 22. I do a double take. Then there's a strange smell, a sharp, acrid bite in the air that doesn't belong. It's not the cigarette smoke he usually carries. It's chemical, like something burning plastic or cleaning, solvent. And then his hands, they won't stop shaking as he places his items on the counter. My stomach tightens. Something's wrong. Rough night? I ask, my voice automatic, but I'm already scanning the Red Bull with a little more concern than usual. He lets out a laugh, but it's not right. Half cough, half choke. His breath smells sharp, almost metallic. That's when my eyes catch a dark stain creeping up from his sleeve cuff. It's deep red, too thick to be coffee, too vivid to ignore. My gaze flickers to the security camera above us. The one that's been dead since September because of a raccoon incident. As corporate called it, I know the layout of the store better than anyone, and the camera's light should be blinking, yet it's completely dark. I swallow hard, fingers twitching over the silent alarm button beneath the counter. Corporate swore it was linked directly to police dispatch. I've never pressed it before. I wonder if it even works. The man notices my glance and follows it to his sleeve. His voice is quick and clipped. "Kitchen accident," he says, eyes darting away. The scratch-off tickets tremble in his hands as he pushes them toward me. Just these tonight. The panic rising in my chest doesn't make sense yet, but something in his whole posture screams alarm. I try to keep my voice steady. Your total's 12/50, but I'm watching him like a hawk, waiting for the slightest sign that he might bolt or break down. The smell hits me again, the acrid chemical burn. It's not plastic, it's cleaning solvents, like the kind you'd find in an industrial dry cleaner. That's when my brain clicks. The dry cleaner's next door, the one marked closed for renovations since November, has been shut for longer than they say. His apartment is above that place, and his wife hasn't come by for the usual Thursday night Ben and Jerry's in 6 weeks. I've pieced together something terrible without even trying. This man, my 3 a.m. regular, is fighting something no one can see. He's carrying a secret, and I'm the only one who might know it. The scratch-off tickets sit in front of me, trembling. He looks ready to run, or maybe to cry. Neither would surprise me. "Everything okay?" I ask softly. He shakes his head, but says nothing. I force a smile. "Take care of yourself, okay?" Before I can say more, the door crashes open. 3 guys stumble in, laughing and shouting. Hockey players from the local community college, drunk and loud, breaking the fragile silence. The man freezes. He stops mid-payment, eyes wide and wild. I don't blink. I tell him, "Keep the change." He doesn't hesitate. In a blur, he's gone, like a shadow swallowed by the night. The hockey players swagger toward the Slurpee machine, oblivious. I watch, the door where he disappeared, and feel something cold twist inside me. I wanted to press the alarm. I wanted to call the cops, but I didn't, because maybe I thought he'd be okay. Maybe I thought someone else would notice, or maybe I was just scared. 3 days later, the police showed up. They found him. His body was discovered when the smell from the dry cleaner's apartment became unbearable. Cleaning chemicals, blood, and silence. I transferred to another 7-Eleven across town, a place without ghosts. The camera, still broken. The silent alarm. It turns out it really was connected. Corporate logs showed they received 17 signals that night from this location, but no officers came. Why? Company policy required 3 separate presses before the police were alerted. I only pressed it once. Now, whenever the door chimes at 3:15 a.m., I don't look up right away. I wait. I listen for voices. I can't unsee that night. And the worst part? The real horror isn't just the man, or the stain, or the cold. It's knowing how close I came to trying harder,